Hey everyone, Stephen Clyde here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It's an old recording of a Bitcoin 101 presentation. I actually presented it to my friends who were interested in it at the time, so I don't know if they ever bought Bitcoin since then, but I hope they did because when I recorded this, Bitcoin was around it was less than $3,000, just to say that. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation, and despite the poor audio quality, I didn't have a good mic back then. If you're at least watching the video, you'll get a lot out of it because it's a PowerPoint presentation. And if you want the PowerPoint presentation, I still have it on my desktop, so just PM me and I'll send you it. All right, guys, hope you enjoy.
So the reason I really wanted to do this is because I think a lot of you are kind of borderline in getting involved with cryptocurrency. A lot of it just sounds kind of odd to the average person. So without further ado, this is Bitcoin 101. I tried to break all this down so it's as easy as possible to grasp. So here we go. Satoshi Nakamoto, this is the guy. His true identity is unknown. We really don't know who this guy is. He's some random guy. He says he lives in Japan, but it's been speculated this guy lives in a region between Universal Time 5 to 6. This includes parts of North America, Central America, the Caribbean. You know, it's just, point is we don't know where this guy lives. It's kind of odd. In October 2008, he wrote the initial guide on how to implement Bitcoin, titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So this is what really started it all. And at the bottom, I'll have that link there where you can go see that. But it's online. You can just go read it. But it's his initial thesis on it. So in January 2009, he launched the first open source Bitcoin client, and he mined the first block. So kind of how everything is put together is on the blockchain. So I'll explain this later, but he mined the very first block called the Genesis block. So this rewarded him 50 Bitcoins, and the Genesis time block has a stamp of whatever on January 3rd, 2009. So that was the first time it was ever mined. First transaction was between him and Hal Finney for 10 Bitcoins, and 10 Bitcoins now is worth about like 34 grand. So let's get to this next part. So theoretically, this guy is one of the richest people in the world. So when he first started mining, he mined 1 million Bitcoins. 1 million. So let me just show you this next part right here. So there's some random guy named Sergio, and he did kind of an analysis on the first blocks that were ever mined. And basically what he found was, let me show you this next picture here. He found this pattern here, and noticed that this all had to have been done by one person. So between this time here, he mined 1 million Bitcoins. So you can note that out of the 1,814,400 Bitcoin awarded during that time, a lot of it sits unspent. It's just kind of sitting there, just wandering around. Okay. All right. So this part's really exciting, and this is one of the most interesting things I found in all of my research. So in the Genesis block, in the very first block that he ever mined, he imprinted this message. He said, "The Times, January 3rd, 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks." Huh. What was he talking about? Well, this is a reference to an article written in the Times, which is a London newspaper, and he's speaking of the possibility of bailing the banks out again. The chancellor had to decide on whether to, quote, pump billions more into the economy, as evidence mounts that 37 billion euros part nationalization last year has failed to keep the credit flowing. Another quote, the bank is expected to take yet more aggressive action this week by cutting the base rate from its current level of 2%. Doing so would reduce the cost of borrowing but have little effect on the availability of loans. So, you know, despite who this guy is, you can tell he was very aware of what was going on, especially after the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. All right. So this is actually the abstract of Satoshi's paper, and I'll just go ahead and read it out to you. A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. This is the big key, actually, guys. is not having a middleman institution, is that the way the system is implemented, we can all interact with each other on a large network, and there isn't a middleman. You know, the miners confirm everything. So digital signatures provide part of the solution, but the main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. Double spending means the double spending of the same amount of coins. So we propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer network. The network timestamps transactions by hashing them into an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work, forming a record that cannot be changed without redoing the proof of work. The longest chain not only serves as proof of the sequence of events witnessed, but proof that it came from the largest pool of CPU power. As long as the majority of CPU power is controlled by nodes that are not cooperating to attack the network, they'll generate the longest chain and outpace attackers. The network itself requires minimal structure. Messages are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they're gone. Now, the beauty of that is, I know that all just sounded like Chinese to you guys, but you're actually going to understand everything when I'm done with this presentation of what he's saying there. All right, so another quote from that paper. In this paper, we propose a solution to the double spending problem using a peer-to-peer distributed timestamp server to generate computational proof of the chronological order of transactions. The system is secure as long as honest nodes collectively control more CPU power than any cooperating group of attacker nodes. So basically, the initial objection you can think of is, if I'm sending some digital currency to some random wallet, what's to prevent someone from accessing my wallet and, you know, forging that transaction, basically double spending the coins? And if you could double spend the coins, what would this do to the currency? Well, it would destroy it. I mean, you'd be able to inflate the currency indefinitely, which obviously it's the exact opposite of what Bitcoin was intended for. Alrighty, so after all that, we're just now getting to the basics. So the basics, the first thing to realize is there's a cap supply. There are 21 million Bitcoins in the total amount of supply to be mined, but as of now, as I was writing this about a week ago, the circulating supply is about 16,483,250. Alright, so the lowest possible price is 0.0000001 Bitcoin, which is 8 decimal places. The way we would read this right here, excuse me, we would call that 1 Satoshi, and that's named after its founder. So if you ever hear someone say like, I bought a coin at 45,000 Satoshis, what they really mean is that the price is 0.00045000. Alright, so the way this all really works is it operates on an open ledger system. You can copy and paste any Bitcoin wallet address into a block explorer, such as blockexplorer.com, to see what was sent in and out of that wallet. You can also see what blocks were recently mined and what rewards were paid off to who, and I'll show you guys that in a second. So this is kind of a critical part of it, and which really kind of connects everything, and you'll understand in a second. The transaction fee, which is what is received by the miners, ensures a minimum amount you can send. So think of like think about when you go to a gas station and there's a $5 minimum to swipe your card. Well, the reason there is because imagine you could buy something for 1 cent. Well, they would lose money having that credit, swiper. So there has to be a minimum amount so they can actually make money. So kind of the same idea here. So a sender can choose to have no transaction fee, but the transaction will most likely take longer, and you can actually end up in some pretty bad issues. If you don't send a transaction fee, it might just get stuck. If you're sending a certain amount of money, you want to send a reasonable transaction fee to compensate the miner for confirming your transaction.
Or else it acts as a price control.
Right. Exactly. I mean, essentially what I'm helping you guys understand is the incentives. Why are there incentives for people to even do this? I mean, theoretically, yeah, it is just digital fiat non-backed money, but why does it actually have value? Why am I able to take a Bitcoin and exchange it for $3,400, Federal Reserve notes? So miners use electricity along with their graphics cards, and you used to be able to do it with CPUs, but mostly you have to do it with your graphics cards nowadays, to add and confirm transactions to the ledger. Alright. Blockchain, the open ledger. So this is what I was talking about. So if you go to blockexplorer.com or blockchain.info, you can look at all the transactions that are incoming. So right here you can kind of see a wallet was sending money here, and this is the receiving wallet. This was the amount. This was the amount sent. This is the timestamp. All right. So what does a transaction look like? Say I'm person and I'm wallet A, and I want to send an amount to somebody. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take their wallet address and I'm going to type it in. And if me and you were face to face with a cell phone with the app, I can just scan your QR code and just enter in that wallet address. So after you type in an amount and you press send to that wallet address, it's going to broadcast this to the network. It's going to broadcast to the network that you're sending Bitcoin to another wallet, and that the network is going to have to either confirm or deny this transaction to the network. Now, it would probably only deny it if it thought it was some type of fraudulent double spending transaction, but if it was a regular transaction, it would get confirmed. So miners, basically what they do is they timestamp and add your transactions to the ledger and verify that the buyer and the receiver signatures match up per se, that they can't be falsified. And then at that point, wallet B would receive the Bitcoin. So let me show you an example of this. This wallet right here, starting with 1 and ending with 2, sent this amount of Bitcoin on August 2nd, 2017 at 1 a.m. with the transaction fee of so-and-so to wallet address so-and-so. So basically the point is all of this is documented along the way. And once it's added to the ledger, it cannot be removed. All right. So this is an example of Coinbase. This is an app you can download to really get into cryptocurrency and buy it for the first time. You can see right in the section right here, this is where you would enter in your wallet address, type in the amount, and once you do that, it would set your transaction fee and you would adjust that. Then you just press send and it would say it's signing your transaction, and then it's going to send your funds. All right, so this is the example I was talking about. So this is an open transaction. This is actually a real one. I just took it offline. So you can see this address right here. They wanted to send this amount right here, so 0.00437188. And they were sending it to this address right here, starting with a 3, ending with a C. So there was a fee of 0.000177747. And after all that went through, you have the final amount in that person's wallet of 0.004194441. And basically what this is showing here, so this person must have received money here, and then this amount right here, which you see the S in parentheses, that's actually a spent amount. So this person sent out of this wallet right here 0.00418 Bitcoin. So this right here, this 0.00001441, that's basically nothing. I mean, I don't even know how much that would be, like a penny, maybe a fraction of a penny, like maybe one day it'll be worth something, but this is actually too small of an amount to get out of your wallet. It's kind of stuck there. So, I mean, if you have a lot of different wallets, you got to keep track of, how much extra change do I have left over.
May I interject with a quick question?
Yeah, what's up?
Okay, whenever they first started to mine 21 million, like you said, right now it's like 16 and how it's changed.
Right.
It's actually in circulation. Was that based on just what they perceived with the number of people who were initially involved and were going to stay involved and committed to it, that they could maybe formulate a rough number that would satisfy at least the initial demand and maybe a growing demand for the near future? I'm just saying, how did that number come about, really?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, 21 million, that's a kind of arbitrary number. I don't know where that number came from. When they were implementing it, they were obviously thinking, cap supply. But when I get into the mining part, you're going to really understand why it's such a cap supply. I mean, it is capped at 21 million, but it's essentially going to cap itself before that because transaction fees are going to get so high and transactions are going to take so long. People aren't going to be willing to mine it anymore. And once people aren't willing to mine, another thing I want to mention is it's not really about Bitcoin. It's about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is just so you can understand where this all came about. And then once you acquire some Bitcoin, then you can get add to your portfolio a bunch of different coins. But You know, it's easy to understand Bitcoin first and understand, okay, now I understand the different uses for all these 800 plus cryptocurrencies.
I like that, the way you described it, because it's just like, say, for real gold, you mine it with, you know, physical miners' laborers and capital and to excavate it. And with cryptocurrencies, you do have, you know, digital hacking, so to speak, where, you know, we're trying to like make the, you know, codes and the formulas and questions.
Exactly.
And that kind of thing. Okay.
Exactly. I mean, that's, you know, no matter which way you look at it, you are spending real money to do this. You know, miners are spending money on electricity to power their graphics cards. I mean, some people have warehouses doing this, so it's quite an enormous amount of electricity use.
Yeah.
All right, so wallet addresses. So this is a really easy point to understand. So every crypto coin has a specific type of wallet address, and they all look different based on the coin. So for example, Bitcoin, every Bitcoin wallet address is going to start with either a 1 or a 3. For example, another coin, a popular coin named Ethereum, it starts with an OX. Dash is going to start with an X. So the point of this, you know, imagine I tried to send some Bitcoin to a Dash wallet. Well, I actually don't even think it would go through. I think it would probably just give you an error message, but if it did go through, you're fucked, obviously. I mean, you said it's like a coin that doesn't even exist, but the point being, there are things in place so you can even recognize that it's a certain type of wallet address. Oh, and Zcash starts with a T1. It's another coin. All right, so a lot of what this gets into is public key cryptography. So cryptography is really, really old, just, you know, figuring out ways to decode different numbers. I don't know if you guys have ever seen what a cryptex is. It's a little kind of thing. It's usually like 3 or 4 numbers as a code, and you can lock stuff inside it, but it's the kind of idea. So in 1976, Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman put out a paper called Multi-User Cryptographic Techniques. This is really where cryptography as we know it came from in the modern sense. So this explained the idea of having 2 keys, in which one is open to the public, and a private key which is held in secrecy. So what they envisioned is a system in which the public key is used for encryption, and the private key is used for the decryption. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard about encryption and decryption. You know, if I'm going to encrypt a message specifically to you, obviously on your end, you're going to have a method to decrypt that so you can read it, but otherwise no one else can read that. It would just be gibberish. All right, and I posted a link there for that. This is actually a really What's up?
What about the NSA?
Oh man, you know, we're probably fucked in that sense, but yeah. So this is just an example, so you can see if Bob wanted to sell Alice, send Alice something, so they're going to encrypt a bunch of their gibberish. So this is Alice's public key, so they're going to encrypt that. They're going to send it to Alice, and with Alice's private key, so this is important. So the public key, in other words, is just the wallet address, if that makes sense. And the private key is it's another string of numbers, but it's a little bit different. So encrypts, decrypts, and then Alice can have access to this key. But you know, imagine Dave came along and tried to decrypt this message. He wouldn't be able to do it. It would, even if he could do it, it would take him, you know, 1 trillion years. You know, and I'll get to that. It's literally impossible to do this for a human to do this. A computer has to do it. All right, so the public key, like I said, the public key is just your wallet address. This is actually a wallet I made, and I'll probably start posting it. But you know, if you want to, on your blog or whatever it is, you can just, you know, put it like a donation wallet and have people send you coin, and it's free money. So private key, this is a little more complicated. Your private key is what's held by you and only you. It's what's used to confirm your identity in a way that's not replicable unless someone had access to your devices. So literally, unless someone had your password, access to your device. I mean, you know, maybe if you were at gunpoint, you'd give all that information up, but otherwise, you know, you're much more likely to have your physical cash stolen from you, your physical gold, whatever it is. It's pretty hard to steal this from you. In fact, you know, why do people even need to know you have it? That's how secret you can be about it. I mean, if I had 100 Bitcoins right now, I wouldn't tell a soul. I would be scared to death of anybody knowing I had that much. But anyways. This is an example of a private key. They look a little bit different. They're usually like 52 characters. Yeah, just a bunch of string of numbers and letters. All right, so this is an analogy. Imagine you take a letter and you put it in the postal box. You can't take the letter back out, and if you could, you would have access to everyone's mail in that box. The private key is needed to open the mailbox and is only held by the person that has access to the mailbox. Similarly, when sending Bitcoin, you will enter in the receiver's public key, and the receiver will then use their own private key to access the sent Bitcoins. So I mean, that's a really, really simplistic analogy, but you can kind of imagine, you know, just someone has a key that only they have a key to, and here's another thing. A private key is much stronger than a physical key in the sense that for someone can physically pick your key lock. That's not hard to do, but this is an interesting stat that this guy posted on this video. To correctly guess a private key by hand, it would take 204 trillion years to break. This is 10 to the power of 72, 204 times in years. Impossible. Impossible. Just to clarify the safety features, it's pretty safe. And there's also a link here that's really good video for explaining public and private keys. It could be a little tricky at first to understand. Alright, mining. This is really, really where it comes all together. For real. In order for all this to work, the value needs to come from somewhere. There needs to be incentives to maintain such a system. So mining is the process of using electricity to power graphics cards, which through the system locates transactions that need to be confirmed. So the first thing that's going to happen is when you broadcast your transaction, a miner or a mining pool is going to grab that transaction and start processing it, and trying to. And I'll explain this more so you guys can really understand it. But they grab that transaction, and you know they confirm it to the ledger and make it a permanent part of that block. So when I say mining a block, that basically just means once the block is full enough of transactions added to the ledger, it's going to move on to the next block. So all the old blocks that we have in the past, those are all solidified. Those cannot be changed. Those are like locked in stone. And from here, we're just adding confirmations to the current block. So the way blocks are set up, they're set up to be mined at a rate of every 10 minutes. And that's how the system's designed. So imagine tomorrow everybody went out and bought a graphics card and started mining. It wouldn't mean that, you know, everybody would start getting a lot more money really quick. In fact, the system would just level off to where you're still mining a block every 10 minutes. That's literally how it's set up. All right, so people usually mine in pools. The reason being, mining by yourself isn't that profitable nowadays. There was a time when mining Bitcoin especially was profitable. Now I will say there are coins like I used to mine Zcash, and Zcash, it was probably making me like 50 cents $1 a day. But man, if I had just kept that going, by now I would have had a few $100s, and you can turn a few $100s into thousands pretty easily. So people usually mine in pools because this combines all the computer power and allows you to compute more calculations. So it takes someone nearly forever to mine alone unless they had a huge setup with a lot of rigs. I mean, in a sense, you could be your own mining pool if you had like 100 graphics card rigs, but you know, not many people want to do that, use that much electricity, because even if you're doing that, that's really an investment for the future. You're not doing that to make money now. You're doing that because, okay, I'm gonna mine these Bitcoins, and one day they're gonna be worth a lot. All right. So the system takes into account miner shares, meaning the transactions processed and the amount of GPU power to put into the work. So this basically means, obviously, every graphics card is different. Well, if it's a different brand. So some graphics cards are gonna calculate a lot faster than other graphics cards. So that's going to be taken into consideration. So the amount of work you put in with your own graphics card is going to be considered in the reward you get. So when that reward is given to everybody, it's going to be split based on the work put into it. Sounds pretty fair to me. Right, so once the block is completely mined, the miners are paid out a reward based on their hash calculation contributions and also from the transaction fees. So a miner's income comes from partially when a block is mined, new Bitcoin is put into circulation, so they get a reward partially from that, and the other part of that's the transaction fees. So they kind of have two sources of income. So there is motivation to do it. I wouldn't say not do it if you have free electricity around and have a graphics card, but just take that into consideration. So blocks are set up to be mined once every 10 minutes, like I said. So this amounts to 144 blocks a day on average mined. So each block is set to pay out a certain amount of Bitcoin over time. So the first blocks in 2009, which Satoshi mined, this gave out a reward of 50 blocks. And this gets halved every 210,000 blocks, or about every 4 years. So let me just show you guys that. So basically what this is showing, you can see from here, this is when Bitcoin was first put into circulation. This blue line is the amount of Bitcoin being put into circulation, okay? And basically the way Bitcoin is put into circulation is when it's mined, the blocks, when you mine a block, it gives you out a reward. So in 2017, looks like you're getting like 12.5 blocks, or 12.5 Bitcoins per block. And in 2021, you'll be down to about 10 Bitcoins per block. And you can kind of see over time, you're getting paid out less and less and less. So simultaneously, the value is always going up, but you know, this is basically what makes it work. The cap supply, along with the fact that it's, you know, slowly being put out into circulation, and over time, you can kind of see right here where this kind of like, you know, it really starts capping itself around this area because the incentive to mine just isn't there anymore. You know, if you have graphics cards and you can go mine another coin that's going to make you like $1 a day, $2 a day, you're just not going to do this. So you're just going to stop mining altogether, and it's going to make the network very, very slow one day. That's why I'm saying Bitcoin isn't an end-all. Bitcoin is like the MySpace of all this. You know, Bitcoin is the foundation, and in time, Bitcoin's probably going to be phased out for something else. Maybe Ethereum, maybe Litecoin. Who knows? That's the beauty of it. But it's really a free market in that sense that reputation and, you know, the coins that don't get their websites hacked and basic things, like those are the coins that are going to thrive. All right. So all mining, it kind of looks the same. It kind of looks like a command prompt, and you basically just start a function, and basically you have the miner tied to your wallet address. So basically here it's starting mining. So remember when I talked earlier about how miners get a share of the work they do? Well, you can see here 3,004 kilohashes a second. This is what the graphics card is actually doing. It's doing all these reverse calculations to add transactions to the ledger. So you see accepted right here. This is a transaction added to the ledger. You see accepted down here, a transaction added to the ledger. So that's basically what that means. All right. So how does the hashing calculations work? So this is another thing that really puts it all together, that you can really understand why it's a forward process, but it can't be reversed. It can't be reversed by humans. No human could do this. Okay, so this works through a process known as cryptographic proof of work. This utilizes the public and private keys in order to verify identities and prevent double spending. So this is kind of a simplistic example, but just to kind of give you an idea of how this would work. Say, for example, that we played a guessing game, and you had to guess a number between 1 and 100. On average, it would take you, say, 50 guesses to get the correct answer, and on different occasions you'll have more or less, but overall it would tend to average out. So your function would be f of 1 minus 100, 1 to 100 equals x. So this is the forward motion. This is what's easy to compute because, you know, it's kind of like having the formula to the problem and you're just kind of putting in the inputs and you get the output. Well, now imagine the same scenario except the situation's in reverse. You know that the number to start with, and say it's 60, but your goal is to figure out the inputs used to get to 60. Was it 12 times 5, 20 times 3, 10 times 6? Well, the correct arrangement matters, and you know, one of these will be the correct input, but the arrangement matters. So the goal of hashing calculation is just to kind of reverse this process in a way humans can't. It basically does billions and billions of calculations to reverse these functions and find solutions that fit. Okay, so this is why it's kind of complicated in that sense, but maybe if this helps you understand a little bit better. So the main point is that you have a process which is easy to convert in a forward manner, that it's easy to compute the function to see if it matches up how it's supposed to, but it's impossible for a human to do the inverting process. Only the capability of hashing out billions of test functions to find the correct inputs will lead to correct solutions, which will then allow the miner to broadcast that they found the solution. So I actually paraphrased that from, if you really want to understand Bitcoin better, Bob Murphy and Silas Barta put out a book back in, I think it was December 2014, called Understanding Bitcoin. You can read that on understandingbitcoin.us. Really simplistic and really good overall view of it. They did a good job with it. So proof of work, This proves what people actually did. Proof of work simply means that there is proof that computational efforts took place on behalf of the miner to contribute to the adding of the ledger process, in which they successfully found solutions to confirm the transactions of the block. This is important in detecting fraud and is why the Bitcoin protocol is set up to add to the ledger with the biggest proof of work attached to it, namely the most number of attempted tries at solving the solution. So you can recall earlier when Satoshi said in his abstract that, the way the system beats out attackers is if a majority of the network is not acting fraudulently, everything, the attackers are going to get phased out. Their transactions are going to get denied. Their double spending will be caught. They can't possibly overtake the network, and it would be impossible for a majority of the network to take over itself. I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, most people are in this to make money. It's only really a few really smart hackers who even know how to do this in the first place. So that's something to think about. All right, and like I said, that's avoiding the process of double spending. That was really the initial concern: is how do we prevent double spending? You have these big digital strings of code. I mean, couldn't I just copy and paste it essentially? All right. So just to summarize, with all we've learned so far, Bitcoin is a digital currency with a slowly added but capped supply that operates on an open ledger system in which miners, using graphics card power, add and confirm transactions to the ledger while also confirming identities, public and private keys, and preventing double spending / fraudulent activities. All right. So this is more the part where it's more or less my opinion, just kind of giving you some insights into what you can really do. So why buy Bitcoin? Well, Federal Reserve notes, aka dollar bills, are unsound money. I mean, we know this by the economics we study every day. Though once backed by gold, they're backed by nothing except consumer confidence. The fact that you ask the average Joe what is money, they're gonna pull out a dollar bill or a quarter or something like that. So I would say, though technically an unbacked fiat currency with high levels of volatility, it's still backed up by the fact that, one, smartphones and computers are ingrained into our lives, and swipe to pay and online payment transfers, it's going to become the norm. It's going to happen. I mean, there's already things like Apple Pay where you can swipe to pay, but we're going to get to that point where everything's just going to be tied to our cell phones. Where cash is just going to be a nuisance. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about that Amazon store that's going to open, where basically you walk in and you take stuff out, and it detects everything you've taken, and you just put it in your bag and walk out, and then it charges you.
Eliminating the need for cashiers, or at least many of them.
Yeah, exactly. And seriously, blockchain is gonna do away with a lot of people. I mean, it just is. Blockchain technology is going to be implemented into everything. So
isn't there an employer in Wisconsin that's wanting to implant chips into his workers? Or I've seen that article going around Facebook.
Sorry, what was that again?
The Wisconsin employer who wants to implant the chips into his employees.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's a weird one. I mean, if people want to voluntarily do that, I don't see why they couldn't. But it seems like kind of a fool's thing to do.
Orwell's trap.
Yeah. All right. But anyways, with the cap supply, the value it could reach is astronomical. In fact, I was reading an article this morning about this guy from Harvard, and he thinks Bitcoin could be like $100,000 by 2021. And that sounds crazy, but think about everything I've told you so far. It's a cap supply. It's slowly inserting the money in. Just think about the fact that you all in this group chat right now know more about Bitcoin than probably like 99% of everybody. I mean, no one really not many people can really grasp this. And in fact, the other day, I was arguing with this guy, and he was equating Bitcoin to counterfeit money. This is literally how some people view it. So I mean, the way I see it, I would tell my close friends, but everybody else, I would just be like, yeah, Bitcoin's a scam. I would be the person spreading fear and telling them not to get into it, because as soon as everybody gets into it, the price is going to skyrocket. It's really gonna. I mean, even if you're buying at 3,400 right now, or just half a Bitcoin or whatever, it's gonna skyrocket. It's just gonna happen. I know a guy who he invested $950 last July. He's probably sitting on like 80 grand. I mean, I haven't even talked to him since Bitcoin went from like 2,800 to 3,400. He might be sitting on like 100 grand now. That guy is set for life. I'll just say that he's set for life. All right. So Bitcoin. What's up?
Just the way you just described that would just made me think about land and its fixed supply, and how as it gets consumed, the price tends to go up, at least historically with real estate. And the same with, like you said, Bitcoin. If the supply is fixed and more people get into it, then naturally, yes, it could go up very high. So that's an interesting way to think about it, just putting it with how land tends to rise.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's the greatest thing you could do for like your kids or grandkids right now is put like a Bitcoin away from in like a secret wallet, and have like your wife or someone close to who has like the key to get into that wallet, and one day they can open that wallet in an emergency. I was reading this horrible story about this guy. This guy died with 220 Bitcoins, and you can imagine how much that is. But he died with 220 Bitcoins, and his poor widow is him and her and the lawyer are trying to figure out how to access these Bitcoins. Apparently this guy had pretty much all his money into Bitcoin, 220 Bitcoins, so their whole life is ruined. So I mean, you got to set it up right, but I mean, you can really, even if it's gold's another good thing to buy. Just diversify those assets. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Put a bunch of eggs in one basket. So a bunch of different eggs. That would be my advice. I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, but the more you diversify, you might really hit big on something. So Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies will be accepted virtually everywhere in the near future. I'm not kidding. I'm not just making it up to hype it up. It will be accepted nearly everywhere, just for the fact that people realize, if I can just acquire Bitcoin and hold it, I'm a big business. I'm already making a lot of money. I can just acquire Bitcoin and hold it and just put it aside, and I'll be set in a few years. That's exactly what most people are doing. So let me give you an example. I mean, another reason it stretches much beyond Bitcoin is just the uses of it. Think about the individual uses. So Popcoin is a coin attempting to be made widespread as a currency in dispensaries. Golem is a coin that will literally allow people to rent out their unused computer power, which sounds kind of odd, but you can look at the Golem and say what they're doing is really, really amazing and unique. There are coins like Monero where it's a really completely anonymous coin. It's meant for, Bitcoin is not anonymous. Unless your first Bitcoin bought is from someone in cash in person with your name not tied to it, if you buy from Coinbase or buy from local Bitcoins or whatever, like your name is tied to that. Like they can trace you back to the ledger and find you if you did something illegal. But Monero is an anonymous coin. You theoretically, it's really, 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 really hard to trace it back to people. So you can imagine where that's trying to be implemented. Digibyte is a coin related to the gaming world. You can games like League of Legends and Counter-Strike Go. You can earn Digibyte by just playing the game. So they kind of like sponsor you in a sense to play the game, and over time they can hype up the coins. Really, really smart. Really, really smart. I don't know if they'll survive, but the point is you can just imagine all the different uses you could have for coins. It's not just about Bitcoin. It's not just about a medium of exchange. It's like the use of it. You can make a brand around a coin. That's crazy about it. The last thing I'll add is blockchain technology itself has many uses for businesses. So you can just imagine the ledger system we described this whole time, how useful that is for a business that deals with a lot of transactions, especially online payments. How are you going to catch certain things? I mean, this weeds out a lot of stuff you have to deal with in business. The blockchain technology can be implemented in so many different ways. Actually, in fact, one last thing. So, last thing I would add is invest in yourself and never put all your eggs in one basket. Whether you're holding gold, silver, Bitcoin, Popcoin, whatever, the reason you're doing it is to diversify your assets. If you understand Austrian business cycle, you understand that the situation we're in with the Federal Reserve and dollar bills, it's not going to last. We're all drunk right now thinking it's going to last, and we're going to feel the hangover eventually. But when that day comes, you don't have to feel as much pain as everybody else is going to. So that'd be one reason I would just buy Bitcoin. Alright, so where can you buy Bitcoin? There's a few different options. One, you can find a friend who will sell you some, and that's honestly what I suggest. Find a friend who is your buddy, and will sell it to you for pretty much a market price. What you don't want to do is buy Bitcoin really, really high, and maybe the first time you buy Bitcoin you're already losing money. Like, you don't want to put yourself in that position. Like, this is exactly like stocks, and that you buy as low as you can and you sell high. It's very, very simple in that sense, despite all the intricacies. So option two, Coinbase it's a pretty good app. It's pretty reliable. I've used it many times. It's usually like a $200 limit per day you can buy, you know, but for just starting out, you know, it's great for that. You can enter in your debit card and have Bitcoin instantly. It's pretty nice. The one thing I'll say about that is there are limits to how much you can buy. So if you do get deep into this, you know, Coinbase it's going to be off the table for you. You're not going to want to use that. So this is my favorite site to use. It's a site called localbitcoins.com. So this allows you to either wire transfer money, you can imagine like Western Union almost, and you can also buy Bitcoins in cash. You can sell Bitcoins. I've personally used the site to do both. I've bought and sold, no problems at all. I mean, a little common sense if you're dealing with a lot of money, you know, meet in a bank lobby if you have to, you know, meet in a place where like, you know, they can't just up and run. But the main cons to local Bitcoins, the fees tend to be very high. You know, I was looking at the prices yesterday, and you know, some guy was selling Bitcoins for like $3,800. So he's selling it for like $400 above market price. So that's I don't even know what that is. That's a very high percentage above. Fees tend to be like 10 to 15% usually. Like people are going to try to make money. So another good thing for you, if you have Bitcoins, I mean, you can make a hefty profit. I mean, people who have Bitcoins right now, they can make so much money on it. And basically all you have to do, sell your Bitcoin at a profit and just buy back in. You already have your 10 to 15% interest. You're just buying back in low, and you just do it over again. I'm telling you, there are people who make like 2 to 3 grand a day doing this. Just buy low and just make like a 10% gain. Do it over again. Just do it over and over and over again. That's what day trading is. So local Bitcoins, the main con to it is it keeps a lot of information on file. Like you literally got to like scan your ID to get on file with local Bitcoins, but you know, that's kind of for your own good. You know, if you're buying like $2,000 worth, if the guy holds you at gunpoint and runs, you're going to want to be able to say, okay, this guy did this. Is his ID on file? And it will be on file unless it's a fake ID. So I mean, it's not foolproof, but you know, it's pretty safe if you're smart. And the last option, I really don't recommend this, but they do exist. There are Bitcoin ATMs that are popping up in those cities. My city has a bunch of them. I hate them because their fees are so high. Their fees are like 13% flat. So I mean, that's just a lot. I think it's really playing off people that don't know much about the market, and you know, you're buying it at 13% marked up. Well, you better hope Bitcoin goes up 13% or whatever. You're going to lose money. Alrighty. So this is just what kind of the Coinbase app looks like. You can download this on your phone. I think you can even access the Coinbase on your internet on your computer, but mostly it's on your cell phone. It's really nice app actually. And this is what local Bitcoins look like. So you can see right as you log in. You can look near your city. You don't really need, if you want to buy in cash, you're obviously going to want to look for people nearby. But a lot of these, it's just you go to like a Western Union, wire the money, and then you receive the Bitcoin, and it's all reputation based. So you can see this person has done like 1,000+ transactions, 500+ transactions. You know, it's the kind of reputation you look for. You don't want to buy from a guy with 2 transactions. You know, kind of common sense. Free market stuff. Where can you spend Bitcoin? Well, more and more places are accepting it every day. Like I said, there are sites like spendbitcoins.com, which you can type in the product you're looking for, and it'll find it for you and figure out where you can buy it in Bitcoin. And if you're able to buy it in Bitcoin, you're probably buying it at a discount, really, and I'll explain with this. So Purse.io, great site. I've used it many times successfully. You're able to buy Amazon items for 15% off. So it's for a large ticket item, it can be pretty good. Like if you're 15% off a drone, that's a pretty good discount. But you're giving up the Bitcoin. You know, their business model is that, like I said before, you're going to hoard the Bitcoins. You know, these people aren't receiving Bitcoins to spend them. They have a big vault somewhere with a bunch of Bitcoins they're hoarding, and they're taking a 15% loss now. But boy, they've probably already made their money back, if not they're already profitable. So, where can you spend Bitcoin? You can be creative. You can set up a business and accept Bitcoin. You know, fuck the permits, right? I mean, we hear about that nonsense every day. It's almost every day now you hear about a lemonade stand getting busted, and some like 5-year-old girl getting told, like, hey, you can't do this, $200 fine, whatever. Just crazy. So you can be creative and spend it however you want, accept payment. And this is purse.io, so pretty good site. Alright, that's it, guys.
Hey everyone, please like, follow, donate, subscribe, and share. Any donations will be used to reach more people.